Government rejects U.S. congressional report warning Hong Kong will lose status as a world business hub because of declining freedoms. U.S. Vice President alludes to China as he warns Indo-Pacific has no place for empire and aggression. And ministers resign over Prime Minister Theresa May's Brexit strategy.
Good evening. The U.S. Congress has suggested in a report that Hong Kong could lose its standing as a global business center due to China's interference in the city. The government here slammed the report. It called it bias and urged Washington not to interfere in the internal affairs of Hong Kong. Haley Zhou reports.
It highlighted several incidents that raised concerns. This includes the banning of the Hong Kong National Party and the refusal to renew the work visa of journalist Victor Mallet. The disqualification of 3 pan-Democrats from a LegCo by-election in March this year was also mentioned. The report also made recommendations that Washington re-examine whether to continue treating Hong Kong and China as separate customs areas for technology exports, and closely review Beijing's adherence to the Basic Law. Said the government has been handling Hong Kong affairs strictly in accordance with the one country, two systems principle and the laws of Hong Kong. Chief Secretary for Administration Matthew Chung echoed the view and stressed the city is still enjoying a high degree of autonomy. He also downplayed the accuracy of the report, saying it is a biased opinion of a few congressmen. Haley Zhou, TVB News.
Well, it's not just the U.S. Congress expressing concerns about Victor Mallet's case. The Hong Kong Bar Association has asked the government to explain why the Financial Times journalist was barred from re-entering the city. Authorities refused to renew his working visa shortly after he chaired a talk by the convener of the Hong Kong National Party at the Foreign Correspondents Club. The Bar Association is stressing that freedom of expression is enshrined in the Basic Law. It added that without an explanation from the government, people can't judge whether its decisions are legitimate in protecting social interests.
LegCo has passed a new set of regulations governing private healthcare facilities. But as Caleb Leung reports, many of these facilities may apply for an exemption.
By majority of the members present, I declare the motion passed.
That was the passing of the Private Healthcare Facilities Bill, which means new regulations for these facilities. Hospitals, day procedure centers, clinics, and health services establishments will be covered by the new law. The government estimates there are around 2,000 such facilities. This includes beauty parlors with registered practitioners that provide medical procedures. However, some facilities may seek exemptions, including those operated by no more than 5 doctors or dentists. The government is expecting around 3,000 such clinics to apply. The ordinance requires the operator of a private healthcare facility to be a license holder and be wholly responsible for the facility's operation. Anyone operating a facility without a license will face a maximum 5 years in jail and a fine of up to $5 million. The operator is also required to appoint a person to take charge of the facility's day-to-day administration. As a way to enhance price transparency, facilities are obligated to provide pricing information of services and chargeable items. The new law will be gazetted on November 30th. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
Elsewhere, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence has told ASEAN leaders in Singapore there is no place for empire and aggression in the Indo-Pacific. The comments were seen as swipes at China's growing influence in the region and its vast territorial claims in the South China Sea. Jeff Tang reports.
A day after Premier Li Keqiang championed peace and stability in the areas surrounding the South China Sea, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence took a swipe at China's growing influence in the region. Standing in for U.S. President Donald Trump, Pence told the leaders of ASEAN nations that empire and aggression have no place in the region.
Our message is simple. The United States' commitment to the Indo-Pacific is steadfast and enduring. In all that we do, the United States seeks collaboration, not control. And we are proud to call ASEAN our strategic partner.
Pence's comments were widely interpreted as a reference to China's growing sway as well as its vast claims in the South China Sea. Beijing hopes to finalize a rulebook to settle disputes in the region in 3 years. Another hot-button topic was the expected repatriation of Rohingya Muslims at the Bangladesh-Myanmar border. The move faces widespread condemnation because none of those earmarked to return are doing so voluntarily. Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi faced strong criticism for her lack of action to protect or even speak up for the 700,000 Muslim refugees forced out of the country by a brutal military crackdown last year. In a separate meeting on the sidelines with South Korean President Moon Jae-in, Pence said plans for another summit between Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is in the works. Pence added he looked forward to working closely with Seoul to ensure peace and security in the Korean peninsula. Moon was unable to make it to the so-called 10+3 meeting of ASEAN leaders as well as those from China and Japan. In his opening remarks, Premier Lee played the familiar tune of commitment to free trade in the face of growing protectionism. At the top of Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's agenda was the problem of growing plastic waste in the world's oceans. He laid out steps the group should take that would lead to effective action. Jeff Tang, TVB News.
British Prime Minister Theresa May have won a hard-fought victory convincing her divided cabinet to back her draft divorce deal with the European Union. But after the vote, 2 ministers, including Brexit Minister Dominic Raab, resign, thrusting the government into uncertainty. Alan Booknia has more on the road ahead for Theresa May.
May emerged from a 5-hour cabinet meeting with news that she'd won over her cabinet.
When you strip away the detail, the choice before us is clear. This deal, which delivers on the vote of the referendum, which brings back control of our money, laws and borders, ends free movement, protects jobs, security and our union, or leave with no deal, or no Brexit at all.
This frees her to tackle the more perilous struggle of getting Parliament to approve the deal. She faces a fierce backlash from her many political opponents who lined up to castigate the agreement even before reading it. Dominic Raab's resignation just adds to the political turmoil. After reading the 585-page document, the UK's shadow Brexit Secretary, Keir Starmer, called it a miserable failure of negotiation filled with useless details.
And then on the question, well, what is it that you intend to use? What is the future relationship? The million-dollar question. There's 7 pages. 7 pages, I kid you not. So this is an invitation to people to sign up to something with no idea where they're heading.
The development was welcomed by European Union leaders. The EU's chief negotiator called the draft deal a decisive step.
But our work is not finished. We still have a long road ahead of us on both sides. From my side, in the next few days, we will all work on the text of the political declaration on the future relationship with the Member States as well as with the European Parliament. And this work will be intense.
European Council President Donald Tusk called for a summit of the leaders to endorse the draft Brexit deal on November 25th. Alan Booknia, TVB News.
U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis is defending the use of thousands of active duty troops on the U.S. border. His comments come as a large caravan of Central American migrants continue their march towards the United States.
I'm 100% confident we have the number of troops at each of those ports of entry to complete what we've been asked to do prior to the arrival of the large caravan.
Mattis made the comments in the southern U.S. state of Texas as he and Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen met with troops. The arrival of roughly 6,000 soldiers is happening as several buses of migrants reached the Mexican border city of Tijuana. That cluster broke away from a larger caravan winding its way through Mexico. A fence with barbed wire was constructed before their arrival to the border. U.S. President Donald Trump is clamping down on migrants and calling their movement to the U.S. an invasion. The migrants were frequent targets of the president during the recent midterm elections.
Meanwhile, South Korea says it's in the process of dismantling guard posts in the demilitarized zone separating the two Koreas. Its military-triggered explosions to demolish a guard post along the DMZ this morning. Seoul is aiming to pull out troops and equipment from 11 other post guards by November 30th. South Korea currently has some 60 guard posts in the DMZ, compared with the North at 160. The move was part of a military accord inked in September during an inter-Korean summit in Pyongyang. It included a halt in all hostile acts and a gradual removal of landmines within the zone.
Still to come on tonight's news. Warnings about high levels of fat and sodium in certain breads. Macau permanent residents to get more cash handouts. And China looks set to make waves at coming APEC summit.
"大師，你輩份咁高，何解喺度跳手指舞呢？
睇落就係跳舞，但係實際上我係同手指熱身，咁我就可以更加靈活運用發興全新論證網站嘅互動畫圖功能。
發興全新論證網站嘅互動畫圖功能？
冇錯啦，網站有唔同嘅畫圖工具，波動市況可以助你量度股價潛在升跌幅。
聽講個圖可以 save 低 send 俾朋友喎。
冇錯啦，畫完之後仲可以 send 俾親朋好友，分享睇法，集思廣益。所以話發興網係我呢個大師
同我呢個大師必備嘅投資網站。
Welcome back, and beware of the hidden health risks in eating bread. That's because the consumer watchdog has found high levels of sodium and fat in some commonly available types of bread. Christy Lung with the details.
Having bread for breakfast may not be as healthy as it seems. The dietary habits may lead to excessive sodium and fat intake. The Consumer Council and the Center for Food Safety tested 100 bread samples between February and March. 13 samples of bread, including croissants and cocktail buns, were defined as high-fat food. 26 grams of fat was found in 100 grams of cocktail buns. That is equivalent to 40% of the daily intake limits recommended by the World Health Organization. High sodium levels were also found in sausage rolls and sesame seed buns. For example, 540 milligrams of sodium was found in a sausage roll sample, which is 30% of the WHO's recommended daily intake limits for an adult.
Consuming too much sodium may have higher risk of developing hypertension, and in turn increases the risk of heart attack and stroke.
Consumers are advised to take healthier choices such as raisin bread or sweet plain buns. Hidden risks also in facial cleansers. 13 out of 60 test samples were found to contain preservatives, such as CMIT or MIT, which could induce allergies. 19 of them were found without a full list of ingredients. The watchdog urges the authorities to step up its regulations over the products.
Different kind of cleansing products is governed under the regular consumer goods ordinance, but it doesn't stipulate any regulation for this kind of cleansing products or maybe body care products. We believe it is quite important for the authority to consider to legislate better.
The council also reminded consumers to apply moisturizer after cleansing. That's because facial cleansers with higher pH values may make your skin dry and tight, although they are generally better in removing grease. Christy Leung, TVB News.
Macau's permanent residents can look forward to a boost in their annual cash handouts from the government. The top-up was announced today as the chief executive delivered his policy address for 2019. Sharon Tang with details.
For the past 5 years, permanent residents in Macau have been entitled to 9,000 patakas of cash handouts. In 2019, they will be getting 1,000 more. That's the highest amount in 12 years since the government rolled out its wealth partaking scheme, which provides residents with a one-off handout every year. Non-permanent residents will receive 6,000 patakas. In his speech today, Macau Chief Executive Fernando Chui says the city's latest fiscal reserves have reached more than 500 billion patakas. Besides cash handouts, Chui pledged to share more of the wealth from Macau's economic development. Parents of a newborn baby can apply for an infant subsidy of 5,260 patakas. Subsidies for higher education have been raised to 3,300 patakas. The textbook assistance for kindergarten, primary and secondary school students has also increased. With the opening of the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, Chui said a new customs measure will soon be in place to speed up transit procedures at the border. He also pledged to discuss with other Greater Bay Area regions in relation to adding in Macau to the national high-speed rail network. Chui also stressed authorities will put more effort to prevent natural disasters and secure infrastructure, such as building flood protection walls in low-lying areas. Chui will also attend a plenary meeting of the Legislative Assembly tomorrow to take questions from members and further explain the government's policies. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
Overseas again, and Papua New Guinea is preparing to host the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit tomorrow. The 21 members of APEC will try to emphasize free trade, while China will try to promote its Belt and Road Initiative. Peter Coveos has details.
Throughout Port Moresby, signs of the upcoming APEC Summit are everywhere. China is among the 21 members attending, and the conference provides an interesting time for President Xi Jinping. While China battles the U.S. over an escalating trade dispute, it's also trying to expand its Belt and Road Initiative. Originally planned as a land and sea link between Asia, Africa, and Europe, the arrangement seems to be including more of the Pacific. China has invested billions to many developing nations in the region in recent years. Beijing's growing influence in the area has received mixed reviews from locals.
And we are also privileged to have the president from China, a very, very important man, visiting this country. And all the citizens in this country, we are very hopeful that we will benefit a lot from this APEC meeting through bilateral relationship. And also, Mr. President is here. We hope that we will support us in many infrastructure development in this country.
I guess the products that are coming in from China are kind of overriding what our little local businessmen and women are trying to, and if we are having a lot of products coming in from China, and if our government is not enforcing or not encouraging our local products here, then where do we go?
During a ministerial meeting today, Papua New Guinea's foreign minister stressed fairness in trade. In the decade between 2006 and 2016, China offered about $1.7 billion in aid to Papua New Guinea. The APEC summit kicks off tomorrow. Peter Coveos, TVB News.
U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor Mira Ricardel has left the White House. This took place one day after First Lady Melania Trump's office called for her dismissal. On Tuesday, the First Lady's spokeswoman released an extraordinary statement. It stated Ricardel no longer deserves the honor of serving in this White House. White House aides say Ricardel clashed with the First Lady's staff over her visit to Africa last month. It is highly unusual for the First Lady or her office to weigh in on personal matters, especially the President's national security staff. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders says Ricardel will have a new role in the administration, but a replacement has yet to be named. Meanwhile, CNN reporter Jim Acosta will find out later today if he will be granted access to once again cover White House press briefings. The journalist appeared in court on Wednesday after his employer filed a lawsuit against the White House. Last week, Acosta was barred from covering events after a heated exchange with President Donald Trump. The White House banned the correspondent. It claims he mistreated an intern when she tried to take a microphone away from him during a verbal clash with Trump. Acosta's lawyer says the suit is important to uphold the First Amendment and a free press. Other organizations, including the Associated Press and Fox News, have filed briefs in support of the suit. And that is a cool wrap of our news.
Bye for now.